Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Givenchy Talk Show. My name is Ashley Brooks, and I'll be your presenter and interviewer today. It's an honor to have a very special guest with me, the President of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, it's a privilege and a great opportunity to have you here on the show today. Would you like to say hello to everyone watching and listening?
Thank you, Ashley. It's great to be here on the Givenchy Talk Show. Fantastic to be with you and your tremendous audience. I must say, it's a beautiful setup you have here, really top-notch. And I'm honored to be speaking with you today, believe me. Fire away with your questions, Ashley. I'm ready to give your audience some straight talk, just like I always do.
Mr. President, it's an honor to have you here. I'm sure our audience is eager to hear your thoughts on various topics. Before we dive into the questions, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the significance of having the 47th POTUS on our show. It's a testament to the importance of open dialogue and the exchange of ideas. Now, Mr. President, I understand you're a busy man, so let's get started. We have a wide range of topics to discuss, from politics and economics to social issues and more. Our audience is eager to hear your insights, and I'm excited to facilitate this conversation. So, without further ado, let's begin, Mr. President. On today's show we'll delve into 3 key areas. 1. Personal life and presidency. 2. Social issues. And 3. Foreign policy and executive orders. We'll take short breaks between each section. Let's dive into our first segment, personal life and presidency. How do you respond to critics who say you're not fit for the presidency?
Now, regarding your question, I'd like to address the critics who say I'm not fit for the presidency. Let me tell you, I've made some of the greatest deals in the history of the world, and I know how to make America great again. As for handling criticism, I believe it's essential to differentiate between constructive and destructive criticism. Constructive criticism can be valuable, as it provides specific, actionable feedback. On the other hand, destructive criticism is often personal and unhelpful. When faced with criticism, I try to remain calm and composed. I evaluate the input, considering whether it's constructive or destructive. If it's constructive, I use it as an opportunity to learn and grow. If it's destructive, I try to ignore it and focus on the positive feedback. Ultimately, as president, I'm committed to serving the American people and making decisions that benefit our great nation. I won't let criticism distract me from my goals.
What's the most challenging part of being president?
Dealing with fake news and dishonest politicians. It's a tough job, but someone's gotta do it.
How do you respond to allegations of racism and xenophobia?
That's just fake news, folks. I'm a uniter, not a divider. I love all people, regardless of their background.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, let's take a short break before moving on to our next section, social issues.
MBJ is a dynamic and innovative brand dedicated to inspiring greatness. Our mission is to empower individuals to reach their full potential, fostering a community that celebrates excellence and creativity. My name is Israel Mobilaji, the CEO/founder of MBJ Innovative. Join the movement, follow us on social media to stay updated on the latest MBJ news, events, and opportunities. Thank you.
Welcome back to the show. Let's move on to the next section, social issues. Mr. President, this section will be based on reality TV and pop culture. How do you think your experience on The Apprentice prepared you for the presidency?
It taught me how to make tough decisions, negotiate, and build a strong team. And let me tell you, folks, I've made some fantastic deals since becoming president.
Who's your favorite reality TV star?
I love the Kardashians. They're great people, believe me. And their show is just fantastic.
I love the Kardashians also, especially Kim. She's awesome. Who's your favorite musician?
I love Elvis. He's a real American icon. And my rallies have the best music, the greatest songs, believe me.
What's your favorite movie?
I've been featured in a lot of movies, but I won't pick those movies. I love Citizen Kane. It's a classic, just like me. And I know more about movies than any critic.
We've come to the end of this section. Thank you, Mr. President, for your time. Let's go on a short break before moving on to our last section on today's show.
Building a network of like-minded individuals. Experience the MBJ difference. Discover exclusive content and experiences. Connect with a vibrant community of achievers. Unlock your potential with MBJ's innovative resources and tools. Join the movement. Follow us on social media Givenchy Talk Show to stay updated on the latest MBJ news, events, and opportunities. Thank you.
Welcome back. That was a short break from our sponsors, MBJ Innovative.
Your sponsors are really awesome. Good job to the CEO and other staff members.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our last section for today's show is Foreign Policy and Executive Orders. On this section, we're going to be looking at your stance on various critical issues. Starting from immigration policy, birthright citizenship, climate, economy, the Russia-Ukraine situation, removal of the USA from WHO, relationship with other world leaders, and finally LGBTQ+ rights. Mr. President, what's your stance on immigration policy?
As the 47th President of the United States, my stance on immigration policy is clear. We need to seal our borders and protect American citizens. I plan to mount the largest domestic deportation in U.S. history, using the National Guard to round up migrants and invoking the Alien Enemies Act to deport non-citizens from countries the U.S. is at war with. I'll also bring back policies like the Remain in Mexico program and Title 42.
Mr. President is taking the immigration policy and his promise to mount the largest domestic deportation in U.S. history very seriously. Based on the record, the U.S. has been able to deport over 3,000 immigrants from the country, with majority of Mexican and Honduran, right from the second day in office of the president. Mr. President, a lot of people, including Democrats and even minor supporters of yours, have seen this movement too harsh on some people. What do you plan to do?
My agenda is to make America great again. I believe that if illegal immigrants and criminals remain in the country, this agenda won't be possible. According to data and statistics, there are over 11 million illegal immigrants in a country with a population of over 340 million. We will try to remove half of this number from our country. By doing so, our economy will rise again, and America will become great once more.
All right, Mr. President, what's your stance on birthright citizenship?
Folks, let me tell you, birthright citizenship is a total disaster. It's a magnet for illegal immigration, and it's being abused by people all over the world. I mean, can you believe it? People come into our country, they have a baby, and suddenly that baby is a U.S. citizen. It's ridiculous. Now, I know some of the fake news media is going to say, but, Mr. Trump, this is a long-standing tradition in the United States. And that's true. But let me tell you, just because something has been done a certain way for a long time doesn't mean it's right. I've taken action on this issue. I've signed an executive order to end birthright citizenship for children born to people who are in the country without authorization or who hold temporary work, student, or tourist visas. It's a big step, folks, and it's going to help us take back control of our borders. Now, I know some of the liberal judges are going to try to block this order. But let me tell you, we're going to fight this all the way to the Supreme Court. We're going to win, and we're going to make America great again. And let me tell you, this is just the beginning. We're going to tackle all sorts of issues related to immigration and border security. We're going to build that wall, and we're going to make Mexico pay for it. Believe me, it's going to be huge.
Mr. President, what's your stance on climate? And why did you withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement?
Folks, let me tell you, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Deal was a tremendous decision. Believe me. It was a bad deal for America, a total disaster. First of all, it was costly and ineffective. The energy regulations agreed to in Paris would have destroyed hundreds of thousands of jobs, harmed American manufacturing, and destroyed $2.5 trillion in gross domestic product by 2035. And let's be honest, the agreement was unfair to the United States. It would have required us to cut our greenhouse gas emissions by 26 to 28%, while countries like China and India got away with much less. It was a one-way street, and I wasn't going to let America get taken advantage of. Plus, the agreement was full of loopholes. There were no repercussions for countries that didn't meet their commitments, and no way to enforce compliance. It was all just a bunch of empty promises. And let's not forget that the Paris Agreement was a threat to American sovereignty. It would have allowed international bureaucrats to dictate our energy policy, and that's just not acceptable. So, I made the tough decision to withdraw from the Paris climate deal. It wasn't popular with everyone, but I knew it was the right thing to do for America. And let me tell you, it's been a huge success. We're producing more energy than ever before, and our economy is booming. Believe me, it's going to be huge.
Mr. President, what's your stance on the removal of the USA from WHO?
I believe the World Health Organization is incompetent and controlled by China. As president, I would reassess our relationship with the WHO.
Mr. President, what's your stance on the Russia-Ukraine situation?
Folks, let me tell you, the Russia-Ukraine war is a disaster. It's a total mess. But I know how to fix it. I've made some of the greatest deals in the history of the world, and I can make a deal with Putin. Here's what I'd do. I'd sit down with Putin, and I'd say, Vladimir, we need to make a deal. We need to stop this war, and we need to do it now. And I'd negotiate a deal that's fair to both sides. I'd also make sure that Ukraine is protected, and that they have the support they need to defend themselves. And I'd make sure that Russia knows that we're not going to tolerate any more aggression. It's going to be a tough negotiation, but I'm a tough negotiator. I've made deals with some of the toughest people in the world, and I've come out on top every time. So, folks, don't worry about the Russia-Ukraine war. I've got it under control. I'll make a deal, and I'll make it fast. Believe me, it's going to be huge.
That's good to hear, Mr. President. Mr. President, what's your stance on the U.S. economy?
Our economy is going to be tremendous. We'll create millions of jobs, and we'll make America competitive again. My policies will be a huge success, and I'm proud of what we'll accomplish. Believe me, it's going to be huge.
Mr. President, what's your stance on the relationship with other world leaders?
I have great relationships with many world leaders. They respect me, and I respect them. I'm a winner, and I know how to make deals. Relationship with other parts of the world? I'll build great relationships, just like I did with business partners. And if they're not willing to work with us, we'll make deals without them. America first, folks.
Thank you, Mr. President. And finally, Mr. Trump's stance on LGBTQ+ rights has been a subject of controversy. During his presidency, his administration initiated a sustained effort to raise protections for LGBTQ+ people, particularly transgender individuals. Some of the key actions taken by the Trump administration include rolling back anti-discrimination policies, rescinding federal regulations that prohibited discrimination against LGBTQ+ people in areas like employment, housing, education, and healthcare, erasing transgender, attempting to define transgender out of existence by eroding protections for transgender students and workers, and weakening access to gender-affirming healthcare, criminalizing gender nonconformity, using federal laws, including obscenity laws, to criminalize gender nonconformity, restricting transgender rights, banning transgender people from serving openly in the military, and blocking gender-affirming medical care for transgender individuals in federal healthcare programs. These actions have been met with opposition from LGBTQ+ advocacy groups, including the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, which has vowed to fight against these policies in court. How do you plan to handle this situation, Mr. President?
As the 47th President of the United States, I have to say that my stance on LGBTQ+ rights has been clear and consistent. While I've claimed to be a supporter of the LGBTQ plus community in the past, my actions and policies tell a different story. Let's be honest, folks, my administration has been actively working to erase protections for LGBTQ plus individuals, particularly transgender people. We've aimed to define transgender out of existence, erode protections for transgender students and workers, and weaken access to gender-affirming healthcare. I plan to reinstate and escalate the removal of anti-discrimination policies, allowing discrimination against LGBTQ plus individuals in employment, housing, education, healthcare, and federal government programs. I've also promised to eliminate protections for transgender students on day one of my presidency, and I'm committed to using federal law to override state-level protections for transgender individuals. Now, I know some of you may disagree with my stance, but I believe it's essential to prioritize traditional values and protect the rights of those who share my beliefs. Of course, organizations like the ACLU are already gearing up to challenge my policies in court, and I expect a long and contentious battle ahead. But I'm confident that, in the end, my vision for America will prevail.
Thank you, Mr. President. It has been the greatest honor to have you on the show today. Mr. President, what's your advice for young entrepreneurs and upcoming generations?
Be bold, take risks, and never give up. And always remember, we're gonna win so bigly, you won't even believe it. Folks, let me tell you, it's a tremendous honor to be speaking with you today. I'm a big league leader, a winner, and I'm always happy to share my thoughts and advice with the next generation. You know, I've been featured in a fantastic poem, The Legend of Donald Trump, a fun poem for little leaders. It's a real page-turner, folks, and it's all about my amazing life story, from my successful business career to my time in the White House. Now, I know what you're thinking. How did I achieve my success? Well, let me tell you, it's simple. Believe in yourself, work hard, and never give up. These are the values that have made me a success, and I know they can do the same for you. So, remember, you're all winners, you're all champions, and you all have the potential to achieve greatness. Just don't forget to always put America first.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for your time and your honest response to questions asked.
You're welcome, Ashley. It's an honor to have me here, on this wonderful reality talk show. I will be honored to be invited here again.
That brings us to the end of today's show on the Givenchy Talk Show. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to the Almighty God for making this show a success. We also appreciate our wonderful audience, both watching and listening, for their support. Thank you so much. Our deepest appreciation goes to Mr. President, the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, for graciously joining us on this show. Thank you, Mr. President. Finally, we express special thanks to our esteemed sponsor, MBJ Innovative, and particularly to the CEO and founder, Mr. Israel Mobilaji Ellison, for organizing this show. We also appreciate the hard work of our entire crew and staff members. Thank you all so much. Until next time, bye.
Thank you, and God bless America.